skip. Doesn't skip. It just doesn't skip. It doesn't skip. It's supposedly like control, left click. It should skip, but it doesn't. Why?
Knights of Honor welcomes you, sire.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm bringing forth a gem of the past, Knights of Honor. Some of you might remember it, some of you might have never even heard of it, but trust me, this game is quite good and it's getting a second installment later this year, which is why I'm making this video. So if you came here for Knights of Honor 2 coverage, I'm afraid I'll be done at a later date. Today is old game time, as I explore Knights of Honor 1 to see its strengths, its weaknesses, and what I want for that juicy sequel. Back in my day, games were better. Better. Knights of Honor was developed by Black Sea Studios and published by Sunflower Interactive in 2004. Later, in 2005, by Paradox in North America. I had never heard about this game until a few years ago, but it seems that it had quite a large following at the time since there was a thriving modding community for it. Today, the community is fairly small and many of the mods have been lost from what I can see. It still has quite a lot of fans and players with fond memories of it because what it was and what it tried to do was actually quite amazing. Think of Knights of Honor as Total War and Paradox Grand Strategy games having a child. It really does sound great on paper, doesn't it? But did they make it? Well, sort of. There are two main reasons I believe Knights of Honor didn't do better until today, why many of you might have never even heard of it. First on is that Rome Total War came out in September the 22nd in 2004, just 8 days before Knights of Honor came out in Europe. And we all know that Rome Total War was a strategy hit. It just looked great and it had large-scale RTS battles that were engaging and great. And then Knights of Honor just didn't age all that well. It isn't just about the graphics, but it crashes quite frequently on Windows 10, and you can't play it in 1920 by 1080. Some features in Knights of Honor clearly belong in the past, like the inability to zoom in and out. It feels like an old game and this hasn't helped it over the years, and honestly, a remaster or an HD version would have been awesome a couple of years ago. But forgive me for ragging on this game because everything else is actually really good. Gameplay wise, it's actually really good. If you can look past its aged graphics and old UI design, the issues of running it on a modern PC, which, you know, granted it's quite a bit, but if you can, you'll actually have a great time in Knights of Honor. Knights of Honor features a real-time campaign and mixes it with real-time battles. Now, the battles don't look that great, but they're still engaging and there is still the need for tactics and microwing units and what you'd expect from a Total War battle. The only issue is that the controls are quite bad. The unit scale is fairly, small, especially comparing it with its closest sort of competitor, Rome Total War. It really doesn't, it's not really that great. So the battles aren't that great, and this is one area I'm looking forward to know more about in Knights of Honor 2. The campaign is where this game shines, really, in my opinion. It's likely what you'll be seeing throughout this video the most. I think the developers did an amazing job crafting a great experience full of replayability. Replayability due to the 3 starting dates, due to all the factions in each of these starting dates, and due to the sandbox nature of the campaign. Oh, what is that? 3 starting dates? What? Starting dates before it was cool? Oh, heck yeah. But inside the game there are quite a few systems that make it great, and for me the real-time aspect is what makes it really unique. The ability to have several battles happening at the same time, that the enemy might be making a move as you're making your move, adds a lot of more strategical depth than is possible in Total War. The issue I have with it is that we can't pause the game. You can speed up, you can speed down, but no pausing. I would like to be able to pause the game and access the situation, maybe get some things started just like in Europa Universalis, for example, but it's just a nitpick, really. That's casual player stuff, pausing the game, am I right, just casual, Come on, hardcore gang, you guys know how it is. Pausing is for the weak. Anyway, resources are quite interesting as well, as there are buffs that you can get by acquiring a certain set of resources. I think this is a good motivator for players to want to collect all of the resources because they will get these special buffs. What I don't really get is the trade routes. You can get trade agreements with other factions, but doing so doesn't seem to give you any extra income, whereas I feel it should. What it does is that if you hire a merchant, you can then use it to go into a faction you have a trade agreement with and bring home a certain resource. So you'll be opening a trade with factions that have resources you want and can get. Speaking of characters, you have spies, marshals, merchants, clerics, builders, and landlords. Each type of character will have their own utility both in the overall campaign, but you can also assign them to govern a province, and each type of character will have a certain ability on that province that he's governing. I'm honestly not too sure how I feel about this, but it isn't terrible. It's actually okay. I'd rather hire a certain character from the court or elsewhere. He'd have some stats, and he'd be good at each of these tasks depending on his stats relevant for that job. For example, piety for being a cleric, military prowess for being a general, and so on. So characters would then develop these through deeds on the campaign or maybe through events. And I wish they do that on the sequel. That's going to be much better, much more role-play-y kind of thing. But either way, that's pretty much characters in a nutshell. City building is quite simple. There are quite a lot of buildings you can build and only a limited number of building slots. As you build your cities up, you'll increase taxation, food production, hammers, and piety, not only in your cities but also in your villages. You see, in this game, cities control a territory, and that territory will have some villages on it. So these villages will produce most of the resources for the city, for the capital of that province. So technically, if an invader comes about and burns all your villages, you'll be in a rough spot because you'll barely be producing any resources at that point. I think this is amazing, and it forces you to defend your territory actively while at the same time giving you more ways to cripple your enemies when push comes to shove. This is actually quite a nice feature, and I hope it's expanded upon on the sequel. A quick summary is that Knights of Honor is a very interesting game with a lot of replayability that didn't succeed as much as it should, really. First, because it was outshined by the competitors, and when it finally had an opportunity to shine, the game was already too old and poorly optimized for more modern PCs. So right now, we, fans of the game and of the genre, need to wait for the sequel. And said sequel, Knights of Honor 2, is releasing later in 2021, and from what I've seen, it's looking good. It's looking really good. But I'll leave that for another day, where we'll be able to discuss all the awesome features I want to see in that game. But do you know what's my favorite feature about this game? Is that I can play as the glorious Portuguese. So, what are the features you'd love to see improved? Have you ever played Knights of Honor? Are you excited for a sequel? Let me know in the comments below. The best answers will be featured in the Knights of Honor 2 video. I promise that. Anyway, I got nothing else to add other than a big thank you for all those who subscribed. I know I'm just at 156 as of writing this script, but I'm amazed that so many of you have been subscribing to the channel, and I can only hope that I keep making content that you guys like and that keeps you entertained and that keeps you coming back. So thank you all for that support. Don't forget to be aware of the olive oil, to be good to your pet codfish, to order some pastéis de Belém, and last but definitely not least, Portugal caralho.
I'm in Portugal.